We're on the lookout for sponsors to join us on our incredible journey with Inspired Change with Gunter. If your organisation cares deeply about meaningful conversations around masculinity, self-development and mental health, we'd love to partner with you. Our podcast has a wonderful, dedicated audience committed to personal growth and positive social change. By sponsoring Inspired Change with Gunter, your brand will connect with listeners who truly value thoughtful discussion and support initiatives that promote real transformation. We're incredibly proud to be ranked number 1 in Australia and number 5 in the USA on FeedSpot's top men's mental health podcasts. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to Miranda Spiegner Sapon, our showrunner and executive producer. We'd love to explore how we can work together to inspire change. Now, thank you for your continued support, and let's keep inspiring change together.
You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspired Change with Gunter. I've titled this particular episode as Doing Well Without Living as a Performance. So, some men are admired by everybody and really known by no one. They are competent, they are reliable, they're useful, the person that everyone calls when something breaks down, the person who always delivers, the person who can be counted on. And then you sit with them privately, or you watch them at home, and you realize something. Their competence is real, but it's not free because it's powered by fear. The belief is that if I stop proving myself, I disappear. Welcome to Inspire Change with Gunter. I'm your host. Today, we're talking about competence without compulsion. And this is not about lowering standards, don't get me wrong. It's about not being driven. Remember the words compulsion. It's also not about becoming lazy. It's not about finding yourself by opting out of responsibility. It's about staying capable without turning your worth into a performance. And if you want to do the practical training from this episode, not just listen to it, the guided work is on Patreon, is patreon.com/inspire change. So let's name the trap first of all, okay? And it follows like this. Competence is one of the ways many men build confidence. If you can do things, if you can solve problems, if you can fix things, if you can carry responsibility, you generally feel more stable in yourself. And in part, that's healthy. But there's a point where competence quietly stops being a skill and becomes an identity. Competence becomes the way you earn your place. And when that happens, you're not just being competent, you're performing competence. You're trying to prove that you deserve respect, love, safety, and belonging. And the moment confidence establishes that competence, wherein it becomes your worth, you're in a trap. Because you can never be competent enough to silence that fear that you might be not enough. And here are some signs you're in that trap. You can't rest without feeling guilty. Even downtime feels like you're doing something wrong. You take feedback personally, like it's a judgment of you and not simply information. You overfunction. You do more than your share because you don't trust others to do it properly. You feel responsible for everyone's emotions. If someone's unhappy, you feel like you failed. You fix problems that no one asked you to fix because not fixing feels like a risk. You feel most valuable when you're needed. That last one is the giveaway. If you only feel valuable when you're needed, you're not building confidence. You're building a dependency between worth and usefulness. Now, I want to be honest about why this happens. For many men, competence became the way they got love. Maybe not explicitly, but in the feeling of it. You got praise when you achieved. You got attention when you performed. You were left alone when you struggled. You were mocked when you were emotional. You were rewarded for having it together. So you learnt the following thing: if I do, I belong. And you also learned if I need, then I'm in trouble. This is not a character flaw. It's fundamentally a learned strategy. The problem is that the strategy that helped you survive early life can quietly destroy intimacy in later life. Because love is not a performance review. It's not, you know, a game in that sense. It's not a competition. Now, let me bring this into everyday life with a few examples. And I want you to hear these and recognize yourself, or at least recognize someone you know, but without shame. The goal ultimately is clarity. So, you're at home, it's 11 p.m., you get an email. You're tired, the day's done, you could stop, but you see something unfinished. Or you remember someone might be waiting, or you worry you'll be too slack. So you open the laptop, you send the email, you tidy the loose ends, and fundamentally you stay on top of it. And you tell yourself, I'm being responsible. Now, undoubtedly, sometimes you are, but sometimes what's driving it is not responsibility, it's an anxiety. It's the fear of falling behind, the fear of being judged, the fear of being exposed as not good enough. For some men, productivity is not work, it's self soothing. They don't know how to sit still with uncertainty, so they move. They do. They just want to fix, they produce. Now, on the surface, it looks impressive. It can also be a way of never meeting yourself. The second example is in relationships. Your partner says, I don't need a solution right now. I need you. This moment is where the competence as a worth trap shows up really clearly. Your partner shares something hard. Maybe it's stress, grief, a conflict with someone, or something they're feeling about the relationship. You jump into solutions. You offer steps, strategies, outcomes. And your partner suddenly gets frustrated and says, can you just listen to me? Now you just feel exposed. You feel unappreciated. You might also feel accused. You might feel like your love is being rejected. So you do one of two things. You fix harder, you push solutions more intensely, or you shut down. And that sounds like this. Fine, I won't help then. Both responses come from the same place. The fear that if your competence isn't welcome, you don't know who you are in the relationship. The sad irony is this: the man is trying to love through fixing, but the partner experiences it as being managed. There's another example, and this one's in parenting. Your child is upset. What's your instinct? Your instinct is to stop the upset quickly. You want the problem solved. You want the tears gone. You want calm restored. Now, sometimes you do it with logic. There's nothing to be upset about. Sometimes with control. Well, that's enough now. Sometimes with distraction. Come on, let's do something else. And sometimes it's with dismissal. You're overreacting. You might tell yourself that you're teaching resilience. But often what you're actually teaching is that your feelings are inconvenient. And the child learns to hide, to numb out, or to explode. Competence without contact turns into coldness. It looks strong, but it feels lonely, brittle. Now let's name what's really going on here. Compulsive competence is often an attempt to avoid a particular feeling, specifically helplessness. If you grow up in a world where helplessness was unsafe, you will do almost anything never to feel it again. So you become competent. And in many cases, that makes you feel successful. But it also, as I said earlier on, makes you brittle. Because life will always include moments you cannot control. A child's pain, a partner's sadness, a diagnosis, some grief, a failure, a loss, a change you did not choose. If competence is your only way of being safe, those moments will break you or they will harden you. That's why we're doing this episode, because masculinity matures when competence becomes a tool and not a shield. Competence is not being. Now, what I want to talk about right here and now then is about the rupture and the repair, because this is where the rubber hits the road. Here's the classic rupture pattern. Your partner starts talking about something they're feeling. You go into fix-it mode. They feel unheard. They get sharper. They say, you never listen. You always try to fix me. You feel unfairly criticized. You feel exposed, so you defend yourself. I'm just trying to help. Don't bite my head off. Now, both of you are in it. You feel disrespected. They feel alone. The argument becomes about tone and not about what was actually needed. Then you do the male move that looks strong, but usually isn't. You withdraw and avoid. Whatever, I can't win. And the relationship loses another piece of trust. That's rupture. So, what's the repair? Repair is a return, a clean return, not a dramatic apology speech, not self-flagellation, not sarcasm, not excuses. A clean return has fundamentally 3 steps. Name the reflex. I went into fix-it mode. That's my reflex. Or you can say, look, I'm sorry, I just reacted. That's not what I want to do. I want to be able to respond to you. Step 2, you've got to restore contact. I can see you wanted me with you, not solving it. Or you can simply ask a question, so what is it that you need from me right now about this? You could also ask, what is it that you want from me? Comfort or some ideas? Clarify. Be curious. Now, that question can be pure gold. It changes everything because it honors both worlds. It honors your competence and it honors their emotional reality. And it stops you from using competence as a way of avoiding intimacy. Now, I want to take this a bit deeper because some men will hear comfort and think it means you're supposed to become a different personality. That's not what I'm talking about. Comfort is not a performance. Comfort is emotional presence. It's being attuned. In the last season, I did a podcast about being attuned. So comfort sounds like this. Well, that makes sense. Or I can see why that would hurt. Or alternatively, I am here. And again, what do you need from me right now? You don't need special words. You don't need to be, an Einstein in communications theory. You just need the willingness to stay, to lean into the conversation. And if you can stay, competence becomes something you can offer later when it's actually wanted. Now let's talk about the deeper cost if you don't make this shift. If competence stays compulsive, it tends to create three outcomes. Firstly, and really importantly, it creates resentment. You do everything, you carry everything, you solve everything, and then you quietly resent people for needing you, even though you trained them to rely on you by never letting them share the load. The second bit is loneliness. Even in a relationship, you can feel lonely if your only role is as a provider, fixer, or manager, because you're never met as a human. You're met as a function. And thirdly, meaning collapse. This is the quiet crisis, the one that shows up in midlife or after a health scare or when the kids leave home. You look at your life and you ask, I did everything right, but why do I feel empty? Often the answer is that you were so busy providing your worth that you forgot to live from it. Meaning doesn't come from being needed. Meaning comes from living in with what you value while being in the real contact with the people you love. Now we need to build the alternative. So competence without compulsion. Here's a core shift in this episode. Competence is a skill. It's not a measure of your human worth. If you can hold that difference, your masculinity becomes freer. You have more autonomy, more agency. You can work hard without being owned by work. You can provide without disappearing into that role. You can solve problems without treating people like problems. You can be respected without needing to be superior. And you can rest without guilt. Rest is a big one. Many men struggle with rest because rest feels like exposure. When you stop doing, you can feel what you've been running from: sadness, fear, loneliness, uncertainty. So you keep doing. But rest is not laziness. Rest is the foundation of clear action. A man who never rests becomes reactive. He becomes impatient. He becomes brittle and at times aggressive. A man who can rest can think, he can choose, he can love, he can be responsive. Now, I want to give you a simple practice that you can use in real life this week. It isn't complicated. It has three parts to it. Part one, notice the trigger. The trigger is the moment you feel the urge to prove yourself, the urge to fix quickly, the urge to protect your ego, the urge to do more than you share, the urge to show really that you're competent. Part two, make contact before you solve. Say one contact sentence first. That makes sense. I'm here. Tell me more. Part three, Ask the choice question. What do you want from me right now? Or do you want comfort or do you want ideas? If you do only that, you will change your relationships because you'll stop confusing love with fixing. Now, before I close, I want to address one objection men often have. But if I don't fix it, nothing gets done. Not true. You can still fix, you can still solve, you can still lead, you can still provide. You just stop using competence as a way of avoiding emotional contact, intimacy. You stop using competence to control other people's feelings. You stop using competence to protect yourself from being human. That's not losing masculinity, that is growing it up, maturing it. So here's the assignment for this week. One moment when you feel the urge to prove yourself, choose contact before competence. One moment only. Do it at home, do it at work, do it with a friend, or even with a child. And if you're listening and you already know this is your pattern, then I want you to do the other part to it. Repair it quickly if you miss it. Use one repair sentence. I went into fix it mode. Let me try again. I got defensive. I want to be open. Let me try again. I want to understand what you need and not just solve the problem. These are small sentences, but they have big consequences. Now, if you want the guided practice for this, include a short exercise that draws from psychotherapy traditions, attachment, existential questions of meaning, and a very practical discipline angle in the spirit of Musashi and making good men great. It's on patreon.com/inspire change. That's where the work's at. So this is me, Gunter Swoboda, is Inspire Change. See you next week. Take care and experiment. You know, on this show, we talk a lot about living with purpose, slowing down, paying attention, and being intentional about the choices we make every day. Because when we simplify the noise around us, we can better hear what really matters. Empathy, connection, and showing up as the best version of ourselves. That's why I'm genuinely pleased to welcome our newest sponsor, Distill Union. Their philosophy aligns beautifully with what we do here. Distill Union creates slick, thoughtfully designed essentials, wallets, key organizers, phone cases, all built with a less is more approach. Their Wally wallets, Ferris key organizers, these are everyday tools that make life easier, cleaner, and calmer. In that simplicity, there's space for clarity. There's space for change. As a thank you to our Inspire Change community, they're offering 20% off any product with the promo code Inspire Change. Have a look, try them out, and see how simplifying your day can open the door to something deeper. Visit distillunion.com and enjoy 20% off any product with the promo code Inspire Change. That's distillunion.com with promo code Inspire Change to check out.
Hello to all our listeners. We thank you for tuning in and promoting positive social change. This makes you a part of Gunter's efforts in transforming not only men's lives, but lives in general, and we are grateful you have joined us. We want to take the time to send our love to the brave, strong people of the Twin Cities in Minnesota as they are going through a time of several injustices, and that we support you. It just goes to prove that even in dire circumstances, the power and triumph of the human spirit is stronger than ever, and thank you for continuing to be steadfast in inspiring positive social change. A big shout out to Cambridge, Minneapolis, and St. Paul for bringing Minnesota to number 20 for the first time on the top 20 USA listeners list.
Congratulations!
We thank you so much for your continued support, and we appreciate your efforts to support positive social change. Remember, if you want to share your story, feel free to reach out to the show directly. Please see the show notes for our contact information. As always, thank you to each and every one of our listeners, and most importantly, please keep inspiring positive social change.
Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.guntersvoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com.